Luca, thanks so much for joining me on the Slice of Real Estate podcast. How are you today?
Good, man. How are you?
Fired up. I'm ready. I'm ready to chat with you here today. Let's do it. First question out of the gate that I ask every guest is: you're wearing some Realfinity swag. Someone says, "What does Realfinity do?" What do you tell them?
Yeah, man, I heard that. I love the sweater question that you typically ask. We're in Miami, so chances are you don't see me with a sweater. You see me with like a hat or a cap, but almost the same. Well, the answer is pretty simple. We're at Realfinity on a mission to build the leading platform to allow real estate agents to offer mortgage services and to really embed that into their value proposition.
Before Realfinity was a thing, how was it being done? Like, what did the process look like before?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So today, people in the US obtain mortgages really mainly out of, in one of two ways. One is the traditional referral. So you're at a property with your real estate agent, and you're like, the real estate agent's like, hey, are you pre-approved? Yes or no? And they'll go ahead and refer you to a lender of their choice or a set of lenders of their choice that they have partnerships with, the traditional referral relationship. And I think the other model, which has really as well grown and grown massively, especially in low interest rate environments, is the direct to consumer businesses, right? Look at the Super Bowl ads; they were sponsored by Rocket for I don't know how many years in a row, right? So that's the second channel. It's the direct to consumer channel, right? Both of these channels inherently have a lot of customer acquisition costs baked into them, right? Which all again gets passed down to the consumer. So that's really the way things are being done today at scale.
What made you want to start this in the first place, Luca?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at sort of my career prior to this, I spent most of my professional career running a traditional retail lender. So I've been part of exactly those referral relationships. We also did some direct to consumer business, and I've been part of how difficult and how difficult it is to keep really the core key metric sort of in check, which is the cost to originate a loan. If you think about it sort of visually, there's sort of this base rate that everybody is dealing with. It's kind of dictated by capital markets. And then every lender has a cost to originate a loan. And that cost to originate a loan is, a function of how are you acquiring the customer? What are your overhead? And then ultimately, what are your fulfillment costs for that loan? And whoever can originate a loan at the lowest cost will ultimately win in the long term. And I strongly believe in that, because I strongly believe that the consumers that are coming now, like, they're savvy, they're comparing, and they really will find the cheapest way to do it, right? And so, like I've mentioned, those two traditional channels, they are inherently inefficient. And there's a lot of inefficiencies that don't have to be there. And so when I, started Realfinity, it was really all about that. My mission is, to bring embedded finance, which is not a new concept, to the mortgage industry, and to be able to originate a loan at a much lower cost, and to ultimately benefit the end consumer, make it more efficient, and create more home ownership, which is sort of at the core of this country, right? And which, for me personally, has created a lot of wealth, and I hope a lot of other people will be able to create wealth with it as well.
What metrics and like traction do you really like to focus and track to kind of see how Realfinity is succeeding?
Sure. I mean, I think it's a couple of things. Obviously, there's sort of the business development side, right? We're at an early stage right now, and we're certainly looking at, how many additional real estate agents are we adding? What's the time of a real estate agent from coming into our door, which, by the way, they typically come with no prior mortgage knowledge other than, what they've been experiencing as part of their real estate job, right? So they typically don't have a license and so on and so on. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, in a second. But, we're tracking very carefully of how quickly can we get them up and running on our platform, and you then get them to originate their first loan successfully, right? So that's a really, really important metric for us right now, because it will show how efficient we are in that sort of sales cycle, and then also how intuitive our platform is. And especially at the early stages, that will really make a differentiation, because again, there's competition coming to the market as well. There's plenty of lenders that are today offering dual license models or real estate agents, but I think the real difference is how intuitive and how simple is it for the real estate agent. And then I think on the other side of the equation, you're obviously benchmarking yourselves in terms of locked rates and rates that you can deliver to your end consumers against traditional lenders, right? And we're doing that very, very actively. We're looking at market intelligence every day, and we're sort of benchmarking our profit margins against locks of traditional lenders to see, hey, are we delivering interest rates just as good as traditional lenders? Are we delivering interest rates better than traditional lenders? And we're really trying to keep us, honest to the concept of we always need to be better than a traditional lender. Why? Because we don't have that same overhead cost, right? I always like to give an example that people can relate to. When you go into, the branch office of any of your traditional lenders out there, you're paying for that office, for that facility that they have there. When you work with a dual licensed real estate agent, they're your agent anyways, right? They're already showing you the property. They don't have an office. They aren't full-time employees. They're doing this, as an ancillary service, right? And all of that, lowers the overhead cost, which ultimately should deliver you a lower rate. And that's what we're holding ourselves true to.
How important is continuing to help with financial education, with that mortgage education? How important of that is that a piece of your business?
I think it's a very important piece. There's two misconceptions that we're dealing with a lot, which is on one hand, it is absolutely sort of this educational piece. We call it the misconception of dilution of expertise. What does that really mean? It means that people believe that, especially the real estate agents today, some of them still believe, and it's really, driving change in this industry is extremely hard, right? But a lot of them believe, hey, I have to be really, really good at just selling properties or helping clients buy properties. But the financing of that property is such an important piece and part of it. And most real estate agents don't even know, but they already know quite a bit about that. So, continuing to provide them with the technology and the knowledge, what is going on in the mortgage market? What are the available products? Giving them also accessibility, right? You look at a FICO score and a purchase scenario and you get back a set of rates, right? And a set of eligible products. That part of educating the real estate agent specifically, right, on the mortgage component is a massive part of our value proposition. It's something that is really, really important for us, as a company.
What's kind of your focus looking forward, like, let's say next 6 months, 12 plus months?
Well, I mean, I think again, it's split in a two-piece answer. One is, sort of, how can we grow and how can we really originate loans and make a difference? Because that's the core metric that we're looking at. We have so far this year, originated already over 60 loans, 40 million plus in volume. And, we're growing. So I'm absolutely looking at that. I'm absolutely looking at, growth, agent growth, and then, loan volume growth. And we're still a very, very, very small player in the space. On the other hand, I'm really, really focused around the technology platform. Today, our platform is built on 4 core functions. It is, loan pricing. It is product eligibility, meaning what client qualifies for what loan. The third piece is document procurement, anything in regards to starting a loan application, obtaining the right documents to clear conditions and getting that part of the loan figured out. And then the third piece is sort of communications, right? All of this together builds a complete origination platform. So real estate agents on our platform don't need anything else but a login to the Realfinity origination platform. They can start a loan application. They can get all the documents, procure all the documents in a secure fashion from their clients, price the clients, get pre-approved pricing quotes, and then really walk and advise the client through the different note rates, rate buy downs, and all of that, whatever is needed, right? So we're really, really focused on further gamifying that, building a full mobile experience for the real estate agents, because about 70% of our users today use the web app on mobile, and we believe a native app will be one of the next steps. And then also, creating that sort of incentive of gamification around commissions, right? We want to be able to show these real estate agents the untapped earnings potential that they have by just saying, hey, I'm referring my loans to somebody else, and the money that they're leaving on the table. Because, commission compression is a real thing, right? So these things people need to think about, where's my revenue coming from and how am I diversify my revenue in the long term.
Let's talk about that for a second. You mentioned gamify, right? I've been a big fan of, well, I guess maybe more, I've been kind of hard on a lot of industries in general because I feel like we don't gamify enough, right? We expect people to just want to use a platform or follow along with data, but where is that gamified component? So, can you talk me through that a little bit more, with what you're willing to share when you say gamify? What does that mean for your platform?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the best example is, we're in the process right now of building a dashboard for agents, for real estate agents, which is sort of giving them a real snapshot at the opportunity that they have in front of them, right? So as an example, you have sold X amount of homes as a real estate agent over the last 2 years. Those people are in high interest rates, right? And today, as a real estate agent, that is not on your radar, right? You have sold them their home, and until they are buying a new home, traditionally there's not much for you to do. All of these people will refinance, right? When rates are further dropping. It's about presenting that in a gamified way to the real estate agent, that they see that opportunity and they find joy in, when they're dual licensed, obviously going back to their client and exploring that opportunity with them and pointing it out, right? So a very cool example for that would be, hey, interest rate arbitrage in your past home sold, right? And presenting that to the real estate agent in a format so that they have another engagement point with their client. When you present that to them in a gamified way, they will do that, right? It doesn't exist today. And that's just one of many examples.
What's I know you said in terms of the next couple months, but let's talk about, like, are there any events on the horizon? Are there any blockers or regulatory policies that you're following along that impact you? I always like to ask these types of questions. So, what events are upcoming that are kind of on your radar? What, in terms of maybe legislation or news, are you looking out for that impacts you? Would love to hear those two things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think generally speaking, I like to look at what has happened in the past to sort of predict the future, if that makes sense, on a very high level, right? I've been part of this industry for a couple of years now, and I've looked at the past few decades, and let's just look at one example, right? I like to give the example of search. With the advent of Zillow and Redfin and Realtor.com, search has forever changed, right? The value proposition of the real estate agent has forever changed, right? So there has been certain things that have happened and really made a difference in how residential real estate transactions are being done in today's world, right? One of the things that has not changed massively is the job of the real estate agent and the value proposition that they're bringing to the table, and also the compensation that they're getting. And obviously a big topic, NAR lawsuit, right? And what's the outcome of that? We don't need to go into all the detail around that, but I think generally speaking, looking at a high level, it's one of many things that is pushing the real estate agent to further think about their value proposition and potentially evolve in their value proposition as well. And so that is something that we continue to look out for in all its ways, shapes, and forms. And obviously, we as a company are extremely focused on the financing aspect, because that's our field of expertise, right? So any regulatory changes in that area, in that arena, we're continuing to monitor. There were already massive regulatory changes. HUD changed the regulations in December of 2022, allowing for dual compensation and dual licensing on all HUD and government insured loans. So there has been massive changes already. The groundwork has been laid. It's now about further educating these real estate agents and allowing them to really tackle the topic and build a solution around it. And the second part of that question was sort of events and things like that. We saw each other at Blueprint, so I'm going ahead and obviously we are attending certain events and all of that, but we want to become, or one of the things on our roadmap and focus is really doing very targeted events for real estate agents that are sort of in our funnel. We can talk about the opportunity and the size of agents that really are interested in this in a second, but generally speaking, I want to, build sort of like academy style of events where real estate agents that are interested in adding mortgage to their value proposition have the opportunity to, attend a certain event that we kind of set and sponsor and just gain the knowledge, right? And again, it's all about sort of showing them the platform, giving them the opportunity to take it for a test ride and see how they and how that could help their clients. So that's the type of event we are focused on.
What was your I would love to hear, what you liked about Blueprint, by the way. That was one thing I wanted to make sure I asked you before we wrapped up here.
Yeah, sure. So Blueprint was, I think, a very cool conference. Obviously, we had the opportunity to speak and present our platform on 75 and Sunny's and Lab Ventures early stage panel. Spencer Reskoff, who runs 75 and Sunny, is obviously somebody that knows how to sell a solution to a real estate agent. As the founder of Zillow, he has a lot of experience there. So, I was incredibly grateful to get the opportunity to talk with his team, to present our solution there, to get insights. It's always very, very interesting to be around smart people. And then we also saw each other. We talked to a few other, people that are just, driving news, driving, interesting conversations in the industry. And I was really happy about the event. I went there and we had a good time.
I love it. Yeah, it was an awesome event. Met a lot of great people. I would have. I try to do some recordings at the event, right? But we'll tag Blueprint in this because we met at the Blueprint event. But it is nice to also kind of take a second to digest and also meet you at the event so that we can have a better conversation when you do come on the podcast like this. So I'm super,
Absolutely.
glad we were able to have you on, and I can't wait for future conversations and wishing you all the best of luck, but super exciting what you're building. Let's definitely stay in touch.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jared. We'll talk soon.